Sons up singing songs, played up on the banjo. Yep, y'all sing along. Yep. How you doing? So, MSNBC, Fox News, and CNN, they have retired and standing interbranch sources. And Connecticut news locations, WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, and WTNH. They were influenced, in other words, to communicate other than they actually communicated and to pretend other. And also, there are ways to criminally foreign influence, say, pretend that someone should sue someone else. If you're leaving out, for example, and hiding the real roles with foreign bodies. And this is not just, in other words, these are every country A through Z. We have now our names been used tactical ulterior from how they are bound and to be used by syntax led by that which is actually hyper-simultaneous. That and how the individual is a distinct identity of simultaneous nature relative to the relative value of what a species body is being manifest as, with the group differences also, and also with where and how other species bodies have those differences, which are also examples of there being an additional hyper-simultaneous identity of hyper-simultaneous nature there. That is not our own, but is as it, because we're only an extent of the complete identity of space/existence, which is what it looks like when you're from inside of something that is greater than and more finite than you. So it is not you, but it is as you too, and also distinctly, not distinctly, and simultaneously, but also hyper-simultaneously. Nature uses additionally two additional identities of ways. From any way we could invent or be, because it is the nature as itself. It is the nature that even if all the countries agree together to further systems other than its own, it will demonstrate negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, including criminal insidiousness natures. This breaching method came and knew effectively it could get and how it could get our own people to self-value the breaching methods, possession over the sciences, and over the differences of them at all campuses, and where and how actually the campuses are valued. And this is where and how value is nature/nature is value. And this is where and how the identity of space/existence makes more of itself per science. It will only stay positive to itself. That and how, even if everyone agreed, even if the Native Americans agree, to ignore the significance of the breaching method, the significance of the discernment of the breaching method that was associated with uses of the crazy breaching method laws that we know were the summary value of slavery, of extortion, of torture against everyone sickly distinctly. And through those names, natural uses of them only as criminal insidiousness nature. And with the difference of that, when people would speak about what's natural or not, that was also measuring and maintaining self-value outcomes of such logic interactions, informally, formally in the juxtaposition, measured and maintained by the breaching method. That is no joke behind the hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise characters associated with the Little Rap Guy and Friends. This is counter obfuscated because this is no joke. What is needed and was needed, nature showed, was worse than war crimes. See, but rather than, so with words like crimes, they had the law used to blame other things, others, or selves for what the breaching method caused, like slavery. In our faces, they'd say our founders caused slavery. And they say, well, that's what the evidence is to say. And they leave out the hyper evidential, which is that and how our founders had to counter extort the other founders. And everyone had to hide their real motivations for why they broke the laws, triggering the sense and sensibilities, to use Jane Austen's phrase, of the fact treatment natures of individuals grouped in together, and then further how assigned as identity ground location voices, now tactical ulterior from that hyper native pure, that which can't be changed, that which the Native Americans dreamed to be afforded fact treatment nature quality. That doesn't lie and deny there needs to have an identity, the ground's identity of relationship to itself. It means to use unity, might, as themselves, but only when, which is, we know is longing, the species body's might. See, but the species body might too. We're on the systems other than its own. So each cell body has cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall /S. These are 5 distinct identities of reception of positive and of negative. Because the identity of the hypersimultaneous, like every identity, has relativity to positive and negative simultaneously, /simultaneously, /hypersimultaneously, as science reveals. So this is another one of those identity of relativity and identity of this is the identity of relativity theory and theorem. How the other species bodies are manifest, male, female, other group qualities, aspects, and natures. Black people's whites of eyes. Difference with the exceptions, the exception color, different color eyes. Nature shows our syntax that it is distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously itself one way. And then further to identities of of relativity to physics as that which is smaller than the most finite detail, while it is as the order of the finite detail. That has a more significant conjunction to the order of that which is simultaneously valued, that which we know. So while they built the cities to effectively to measure and maintain, no one discerned how functional the breaching method singular was, that which employed. The second you employ people to responses to instances and names, even their own and people next to them, after having had tactically denatured education, and the motivations for that were used to screen with that which grew up from semi-ancient times, self-valuing regardless of the motivations for it. The republic for which we stand, having been abridged from the quality aspect in nature, that really revealed its integrity and value. So this is where nature is value / value is nature in the opposite sequence nature. So it's value as nature / nature as value. This is where and how it is making more of itself. This is where and how it answers our questions. But as a system and method of communications, that we are simultaneously preemptively, actively for grouped reasons too, and as that nature of reasons and grouped and simultaneously. So when we heard American history, when we heard people blame our founders for slavery, or when we search our experience and realize they skipped over what American history was really about, and where and how there were exceptions there. We know there are self-valued roles with that. That is also in that nature of quality of fact, treatment nature, self-value. Where the only reason it gets one of the only reasons it gets away with itself, because it kept and keeps people blaming other things, others, or selves exactly the way it needs to hide uses of its negative value nature, progressions, acts, natures that are nature already demonstrated. That it already effectively employed off the records of employment, blamed on other things, others, or selves. Just like witch trials. Witch trials, regardless of who made them up and for what motivations, they were about slavery. The constitution's abridgments are about slavery. How that, and that's about also simultaneously too, more greater and more finite things, like how they got away with that, and like how they used truths for lies to get away with it too, even, and that's mixed to screen, which actually was and is going on. Because don't forget too, these natural differences, black pupils, whites of eyes, exceptions, exception agent, they were assigned additional meanings, tactical terror from its use of communications with us, per its method to measure and maintain, pseudo sophistication, forcing any individual voice to pretend other. They're forcing each president sickly distinctly, effectively keeping how sickly non-distinctly, even unfathomed, for how they were already used, every modern country's names, legal identities, remotely, and how as collusions with off the records, even to themselves unrealized, but to an extent, remote uses of all sides in criminal and in civil cases, and victims advocates in their campuses, in their family members, and names have been in communications with them per this simple method that's only extensive, that was sustained against Native Americans, that is sustained against Native Americans sickly distinctly from our founders, relative to why president/chief is manifest that way. See, but locations, areas, and states, if they're criminally foreign influence, treatments of positives and treatments of negatives, and of the causes of that, and of uses of exceptions associated with facilitating that, where and how the relativity of the nature of what they call debate or argument, logic, and descriptions of it, and then how they have skewed descriptions. They have things solved with courts. The courts have roles with switching names and sequences. They have grown up as roles with. The trick is that there are predicate acts with facts, roles, relative at each age of fact, human nature being stuck into databases where used remotely. It's way worse than politics. But when everyone's already been used for way worse, seeming nothing. In other words, the people behind the January 6th, they have roles keeping relative to the answers. What's actually recorded was other than they pretended. Forgiveness is not to give up. Forgiveness is also not to let them pretend passions and emotions about strangers like online. They tell people, they pretend they can't understand people when they speak clear. And when they put things unclear, they also use that to hide what they do when people speak things clear. So all automatically, increasingly, hyper additionally, the way that nature shows that the things that have nothing to do with black and white, for example, and the exception is exception nature, that is effectively being and having been used to measure and maintain all the additional applications of that are not natural, but as criminal insidiousness, and the employment of those argument debates about what's natural or not. Worse than criminal competence, criminal incompetence of the legal identities and tactical delusions associated with them and their family members and their uses of locations. A whole bunch of people tied to the names Jensen with the intelligence community, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, a whole bunch of people with mayors, a former Mayor Gold and his family involved with intelligence community, taking pictures, fake exceptions, and making totally fake ties between kids and others, and fake communications, and hiding what's actually recorded with the value of what they pretend, where and how used remotely are interbranch locations, and over the overt criminal enterprises and the private ones, and insidiousness of people A through Z, and people next to body dumping spots. Recorded timed uses of the phenomena of their sense and sensibilities being relative to uses of such answers, and the significance of them, the value of the significance of them, to how left out with logic, because it is relative to roles with how they got away with wire crimes, even methods, whole wire crime methods. Weatherfield police have whole wire crime methods and roles with the intelligence community since they were kids. From Weathersfield, who were used my name, they use other people's names, because in other words, they already invested. Only 3 branches of government exceptions tied to them: Sandy Hook campuses, Whiting forensics. They've been roles with predicate acts at other natures and ages, all ages and natures of campuses, in a way that has them having to hide live progressions in the future too, while they are increasingly better than perfectly used remotely. They're so long it has been sustained. They have the names next to it already being and having been invested also to roles with news locations, with retired and standing interbranch and exceptions tied to them, and the difference of that uses by the breaching method that also has countries grouped this way, self-valued roles with it too, where and how names are used, where and how sides of bullying logic are used to get over on exception nature, and the third function of the hyper invisible but still discernible as that identity of hyper simultaneous nature. Science shows needs to be discerned, distinct from the other identities of simultaneous nature, such as how while an individual is valued as a simultaneous nature, it is valuing the species body as a sequence nature if it is not by valuing the complete identity simultaneously as a semi-nature identity of relativity to that hyperscience that is hyper-native pure. So as non-Native Americans, we have obligations per science to discern how sickly distinctly from ourselves. The Native Americans are not free at last, individually grouped and together, and how that is exploited sickly distinctly. It effectively is used to keep our sickly not distinctly left out. Remote uses of all sides in criminal and civil cases, and victims advocates, and the courts, even judges and prosecutors' role speaking fake things into records, of facilitating and covering that up, keeping the motivations appearing other. Their roles with with all the countries in the news, like Afghanistan, like Ukraine, like Russia, like they have roles with psychiatry drugs and things they could do before they prescribe them to people, and they lie about that so they can slander people out of their locations. They use we're not supposed to speak about medical things. They fake having us as their patients. Where they have locations where there are going to be disputes verbally, they have employed psychopaths to keep all descriptions of all voices and of the identity theft, fraud, slander method roles sensed through other additional motivations too. But it's where it's brought out that those additional reasons were already accounted for by the breaching method per its uses of only known, having been blamed on other things others ourselves. The real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts and natures. Acts like putting laws that respect uses of the color black other than what it's supposed to be about. Uses of the color white other than what's supposed to be about. Uses of the motivations behind roles with that used. Indifference to that used. In other words, when I say use most critically relative to the breaching method itself. The only way we can parse this is by it is present too as a hyper simultaneous nature because it was screened, and while it's being left out of logic, it's obviously critical. The method behind who would put such crazy laws and witch trials, whether they're made up or not, they're about slavery. How we know that? Because slavery was entrenched north and south. Slavery was entrenched in Wethersfield, Connecticut. We were supposed to have this understood with American history right up front. Right up front. No one understands about it. No one knows about it. We're supposed to have understood about how the witch trials place is right next to where George Washington and the people with James Madison's plan and method of counter-extortion of the other founders, but only to an extent. And the breaching method still had everyone tortured, extorted, and fact treatment nature enslaved to a bunch of extents, and everyone missed the singular extent, the singular breaching method, because in semi-ancient times, in defenses of fact treatment nature, and who's good or who's bad, and the difference of that. Employed incapable of defending its logic and of affording discern with the ancients and what we could now, but per a method of logic, per a method of descriptions of instances, per a method of the relativity, referencing a method increasingly inseparable from the relativity of the smallest finite details and of simultaneous ones that don't take long to add to subject treatments, increasingly used only to measure and maintain collusions, criminally foreign influence uses of America's name too, fake patriotism natures, fake types of sacrificing natures for their country. That's forced by nature. Location/S and database relativity. Programming, these are words in our dictionary before computers. Is more practical. Is more probable too than recorded self-value, criminally foreign influence, fact, nature, quality aspects in nature, and tactical delusions associated with the experts on the reception of the sciences individually grouped them together. So Anthony Wall, YouTuber Anthony Wall, this science, the hyper-simultaneous, the hyper-evidential. This uses the Constitution unabridged. This uses where it's abridgments self-value too, because that's right where you could discern the breaching method. That's right where you could discern what's actually recorded, were roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, and victims advocates, and victims and their campuses and families with the courts ones, with federal evidence as crimes, with federal rules of evidence as crimes, and with values of that uses, like the value of their names, like the value of other people's names, and like their defenses of it and their quality of fact, human nature, quality aspects of nature is inside that. How they get away with it, they have employed, the many, many names to the types of jobs and industries and stuff like that. Measure and maintain. Of course, these are value systems, but in other words, where and how they'll jump into people's debates and how they get away with it too is increasingly important. In other words, nature shows us when the branches of government are collusions and how they're maintained collusions with their worst predators, kept needing to hide the same finite, active, and progressive lies with them, motivations, narratives with them. A whole bunch of people tied to Eric Jensen and neighbors of his, involved with the family members of judges, involved with various niches of courts before the World Trade Center attack, years before it, increasingly every year since, still, roles of predicate acts. And at locations, criminally foreign influence uses of all locations since before our founders were born. Remote uses of topics and subjects treatments in the news effectively used to measure and maintain collusions and our means needs to adapt if anyone reports things on Facebook properly, for example, or on YouTube properly. They have the intelligence community discrediting legitimate stuff as our side's roles with the World Trade Center attack and with the coalition response to it. My Saudi friend recorded Whiting forensics without realizing it, with O'Neill family and with other people involved with governors and mayors, retired and standing, and their help and family members who have roles on off the state education offices, on off the spots next to it, with federal evidence as crimes. Former Director of FBI Robert Luskin, all along Church Street in Old Wethersfield, and next to schools. They have roles with fact-checking nature of all sides in criminal and civil cases, victims and victims advocates, roles with predicate acts on the campuses too, and with timed roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, unions, families, uses of election laws where they have rights to lies about people, where they apply it juxtaposed timed collusion, where they make fake exceptions of people that don't know each other, where they mix that with completely they don't know each other, and where they pretend people lie or not, and where and how it is relative to where and how they communicate and communicated other than they speak. They can all whisper creed. So they communicate they're psychopaths when they leave out these things. The significance of them when they keep black and white uses and leave out the breaching method, leave out the predicate acts with facts. I'm not even a lawyer. They have lawyers too on both sides through time, planting fake things, fake motivations with foreign countries. I don't even know the names of them all. And a whole bunch of people with the intelligence community. They're trying to start a fight between me and McCord brothers and their family and their lawyers and the girl and the people with. They're planting fake evidences as roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, also with uses of all the hyper crime scene /S that our founders left us to demonstrate. So easy to discern. We just need free speech. So again, I'm not a doctor, Ron. And so the police that you mentioned are still further involved with child offenders and forging and switching names and wire crimes of the Wethersfield police. Was it Apollo with the Weathersfield police that you mentioned, Ron Adams? Also, Congress is involved with the James Comey. It looked like it might have been a different person, but even if it wasn't a different person, the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, has roles with New Britain Superior Court's families and with Hartford Court's families and Connecticut District Court families, roles with various natures of federal criminals before they were caught, and with the principal child abusers campus. And at the same time, they have roles with uses of the elderly homes and names roles with predicate acts on my street per methods everyone could understand if mandated law were followed. So they have wire crime acts and methods, and they have roles with the people or with a Cololo family. A whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital have people tied to a Cololo family and a Casper families and Violet families. People with Hartford Hospital and Lombardo and Leahy families, putting fake things in databases, identity theft, fraud, slanders with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, a whole bunch of people with DeMorrow families, their neighbors, involved with child offenders, timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, also with identity theft, fraud, slanders, attaching kids in middle schools and grammar schools to fake locations, fake ties to their classmates. Can they make fake exceptions? This is also relative to where and how programs and programming use exceptions and exception nature and identities, values / value progression. And we know that they obfuscated and lied about where and how they obfuscate this and where and how they teach things properly. How this is gotten away with is also relative to where and how from off campuses the intelligence community has been used remotely, criminally foreign influence while protecting others simultaneously. So Ron Adams and Officer Jerry Miller recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he'd been roles with abuses of the kids and of the adults of the leaders of the kids while forcing them to collusions with federal evidence as crimes. Also, next to everyone's houses, because where everyone speaks is used and being used and have been used criminally foreign influence. Some untimely deaths reported, made up or not, on off Trinity College and roles with them were a whole bunch of names that I never had anything to do with. And one thing that ties them is they walk by and they take a picture to make an exception. So these are people also involved with Facebook families, you know, the owners of Facebook, leaders of Facebook, and other, you know, big world, small world type roles with the FBI databases and Weathersfield police with them, state police, forensics databases. They have all roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, victims and victims advocates, and names next to the body dumping spots tied, which there are a number of them tied because every year they have increasingly roles with mail and wire crimes, making fake exceptions between the people as shown tied. CNN has sources on and off CCSU, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with males and females with the intelligence community and East Hartford locations that are, you know, and they have roles that they're implying are unmarked police, like with a Bobby Jean and a male with the name Bobby. And they have roles with a Gill family on Covington Street, and their neighbors in those apartments there are involved with the intelligence community, with various natures of courts and prosecutors and their family members, judges, with drugs and medicines crimes and sexual crimes with kids at the same time, legal crimes, fabricating audio and video transcripts into formal interbranch databases, communicating other than they pretend, and getting away with it for how they record things, have people record things out of sequence. They're, you know, that's implied and demonstrated. Now, they also have roles with the right to lie, use criminally foreign influence. For example, they have coachings of the news media, and they're at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut. WFSB, Fox Connecticut News, and WTNH have been influenced to pretend fake evidences, digital, with a principal upskirt nature, and medical families at the same time. with their colleagues, with houses next to the campuses, attaching the kids and their adults in their family to fake words, change words, and time sequence shifts, and fake motivations roles increasingly with federal criminals before they are caught. At the same time, with interbranch families, exceptions tied to them. These are also names with Sandy Hook campuses and involved with Sandy Hook Promise, and Twitter with more upskirt pictures with the principal upskirt nature since before he was caught. So Jerry Miller, an officer Jerry Miller, brought up a Jerry Kerr, and there are more than one Jerry Kerrs who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they were involved with federal evidence of crime methods, and natures of identity theft, fraud, slanders with people all along the Berlin Turnpike at shopping centers there, and with the DeMoro families. And these are people with the FBI and other police forms, the Wethersfield Police Department, a whole bunch of people tied to the Dillon family /S, IES, involved with child offenders and various natures of organized crime bodies and federal criminals before they were caught, and people on off elections locations involved with relative criminally foreign influence federal evidence crime roles with the news at the same time, multi-front. Sequentially and simultaneously, no. So they said the Kerr family were confirmed, and they sought me out to make all these confessions, demonstrations about this, because there roles with also a bunch of people with a former Mayor Gold. Former Mayor Gold. They have people take pictures and then people standing next to each other, and they pretend fake evidences. They hide wire crime acts and methods involved. These are predicate acts with fax rolls. These are KKK themed, black themed, military police families. Other forms with the military, people with campuses, positions, sticking fake things in databases. Fake ties and fake natures of ties between students and between classes, sticking roles with that. And everyone doesn't understand too, because everyone's the interbranch are switching names now, tied to what they did in the past. I recorded. Even between public and private schools, and the difference of that. They have timed roles with interbranch K, only 3 branches of government and exceptions tied to them. The only time I ever responded verbally was real quick to a Sabi Bajaria, who's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a bunch of judges, families, with drugs and medicines crimes, federal evidences crimes, federal rules of evidences crimes, also with names on all sides of the Wethersfield Community Center, and further as their roles as some of the names involved with the principal child offender, and their roles with the intelligence community on all sides of Central Connecticut State University and on off it, and the difference between the police form's location off the campus and how they have the form of it on the campus. And the professors there's involved further with digital crimes with child offenders, including sexual, medical, and judicial at the same time, and with these executive police forms. There's an officer Poison with Central Connecticut involved with this, with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. There's Detective Samuda. He's involved with a whole bunch of people with East Hartford, with Officer Magnanos. And also, the officer Magnanos brought up the name Stephen Manos in his confessions and his roles with federal predicate acts on off Central Connecticut State University, and as his roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, including ones with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, as one of the defendants and a part of one of them. As one of the ones I caught, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with depositions, and his co-defendants and their family members with predicate acts against me each year since I was a kid. And they're hiding about their motivations of it and their roles with the, the names involved. Christopher Cullen, his family's involved with the intelligence community with a former Mayor Gold and other mayors. sickly distinctly from the other natures of politicians and their family members at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and the other natures of insidiousness as exception nature to the three branches of government. But nature uses additionally high exception nature so we can discern. For example, so we're going to treat it as a predicate acts delivery system method. I'm not even a lawyer. They have lawyers, Trantolo and Trantolo is also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Roles multi-front with advertisement placements and motivations planting, where they have courts names, judges and prosecutors, and FBI where they have predicate acts grouped too methods, and fake motivations all along Route 3 and conjunctions to that, like the state judicial branch offices and the state corrections offices. They have roles with predicate acts, also with remote uses of the black families, as the kids of them and as the adults of them involved with federal rules of evidence as crimes and federal um, evidence as crimes and uses of that, which have also been used with additional and as collusions with additional uses as additional use of location slash s by the breaching method that used everyone individually grouped ways and all together to measure too, while nature demonstrated a breaching method is a part of why black people's rights of eyes. And the witch trials were there, no matter who made them up, because slavery was there. So everything's about that. And everything's about how it was sickly distinctly slavery, because everything's about how it was sickly non-distinctly too. And to hide that, and uses of everyone blaming other things other than themselves, which is part of how they got away with hiding what's evidential, how they got away with pretending they could speak about evidence. There's a Ryan said, "Can I show my muscles?" Guy, I don't know what you're talking about. Showing my muscles. There's a Spada family associated with the Cololo family that Weathersfield police called me on the phone to confess, record, demonstrate, confirm. They have also other people switching and forging names with them. And they have roles with them with drugs and medicines crimes and sequence shifts and abuses of little kids with judges and prosecutors and doctors, foreign and domestic. As timed roles with people associated with overt criminal enterprises in the witness protection program. Even if, and relative cases, also Faenza family's roles on off the state judicial branch offices, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed on Facebook. Roles with his family with investigators associated with the body dumping spot of Billy Grasso, and with names at communications locations that described it different ways. And they have roles with extortion acts and methods with them, and identity thefts and frauds, fake motivations planting, sequence shifts cover up, uses of location slash S cover ups. These are also roles with conjunctions to the. These are the Mendes police, and they said it's involved with people that owns Allegro's Cafe and the buildings at downtown Hartford near Fox Connecticut News. And there was a Mendes police involved with that. I never had a word of conversation there. They non-verbally demonstrated that. And there's a Charlie Bowes and a girl who says she's her sister at Old Town Cafe in Weathersfield, with a whole bunch of people with the intelligence community, with a gas station on all along Route 175. Are people who planted evidences in the past, federal evidences, crime acts, and methods roles with criminally foreign influenced uses of investigators, and of locations. We have Judge Smith. Dear Antoinette Spada or Sandra Spada or Joe Spada, I know we've never met. And I don't know your other sister's name who lives near Dearborn Street in Newington. But Eric Jensen brought that up in the confessions he made, which were recorded, a part of communications that were other than were pretended, and as roles recorded through time with the people with the World Trade Center attack involved and state police involved and Whiting Forensics has a whole bunch of people along the Berlin Turnpike and at state police locations like a Whiting Forensics in Middletown. And people with campuses putting predicate action to databases, fabricated audio and video, also with foreign and domestic medical families, overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved with sequence shifts and cover-ups because of uses of those, and which involves remote uses of people today, based as people in the past who self-valued roles of criminally foreign influence, readings of statutes and precedents and of the science's value /s, like history, American history, like the value of slavery, value increasingly to discern the breaching method, sickly distinctly against everyone. And how it got away with it. So Wethersfield police recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have roles with state police, and they pretend other too. They communicate other than they say. They switch names and forge names. They fabricate audio and video transcripts with the other police forms. And the Wethersfield Police Chief Cintron, and 1 year before him, or more years before him, have roles. I don't know all their names. Roles with a 80 Carriage Hill Drive. With the name Cololo, also on YouTube, recorded with the word psychedelics, involved with sequence shifts, and doctors and nurses and lawyers and police forms at Hartford Hospital, like ones with the name Violet, and their roles with UConn, mental health. These are people that have been putting fabricated audio and video into transcripts, into databases, making fake exceptions by influencing people just to say things that imply things in sequences because of the relativity of remotely used criminally foreign influence investigators. So Hartford Hospital also has roles with the military, foreign and domestic, where and how as the names roles that attach Saudis to cover up sins too, and they didn't want those roles. See, they recorded other with there's a O'Neill family with the intelligence community with West Hartford campuses, and further involved with the names with the intelligence community with Wethersfield campuses and names next to the campuses. Further involved also with the newest locations planting federal evidence as crimes with all sides in criminal and civil cases, and victims and their advocates and the judges and prosecutors and their family members, other names of the courts, since they were kids involved with, repeating fake things, all truths used criminally foreign influence too. So they have that is also tied to the corner of Sauston Highway and Town Line Drive. Has something to do with Rocky Hill Police and Wethersfield Police families and Newington Police families that have been spreading lies about me and fake ties to me, fake natures of ties to me. They time we're going to be, and they take a picture of you looking at someone or whatever, and they also just make that up as people who are involved with the recorded criminally foreign influence uses of the courts each year. Also, New Britain, like the military, Eric Burgess also confessed, demonstrated, confirmed this, and with roles with the family of a Dean Judd, and timed roles with various natures of federal criminals and people associated with murders at the time, and with the murder, who also had roles next to Trinity College, as the people who had been with the courts planting evidences with their family members and intimate ties. Like Hartford Courts has an Amy or an Emily involved with some judges and an Officer Hunter, who is involved on Park Street locations. Increasingly, people tied to a Cuddy family, families, I don't know them, a Lance Cuddy, and confessions made by some of the teachers when they were little kids as fake conversations with me too, as people involved with federal evidences, crimes, and child abuses, further with the principal child abuser. And they hid his confessions to me and what is actually recorded with that, which is also how they record fake things. And they're hiding between how they have roles with Afghanistan families, Russian. They implied it's roles with China associated with places on off Town Line Drive. Forgive me, you guys. I'm on your side. There's the police forms. I don't know their name. They know mine. The ones associated with the Mike Pandolf and the people with the name Spada and the confessions. The police made confessions as threats and demonstrations of the roles, fabricating audio and video, replacing what's actually recorded over the phones with the police. They attached me to fake conversations with them as a kid and now as an adult because they're little rat traps since they were kids being used criminally for an influence. They were never legitimate for America. So they recorded, the intelligence committee recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed their roles along Route 3 with name. There with names was next to where they put the sign for Morgan Circle. Has roles further than and now with more with the principal child abuser. And with time as people that were timed roles with overt criminal enterprises and union families with timed evidence theft, identity theft, fraud, slanders. You take a picture of you next to people and pretend you know them, lie about what came first, what's actually recorded. So Ron Adams says Robert Luskin. Robert Luskin was the former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence of Corrupt Organization Act. There are people with the name Phil Cololo that Bob Chase also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed is involved with child offenders, also sexual and medical, and various natures of courts are involved with them. Also with tactical delusions of federal evidence is crime, federal rules of evidence is crimes, and uses of the value of that, which is also uses of collusions with even worse uses of locations. Whiting Forensics also had roles with the witness protection program tied to the people involved with the body dumping spots of Billy Grasso and the overt criminal enterprises, Los Solitos, and Italian ones brought up with the ones with the Wethersfield police and their extended families that pretended I never even saw them around campus to try to make fake exception with a picture. Reno Mazzucato was influenced to make a fake exception of knowing me on a campus we never went to together on along Route 175. Also with Joshua Schumack, who was involved with the Facebook pages of New Britain Superior Court and of Wethersfield Police, which house sex offenders, and with various natures of organized crime bodies since before they were caught, including the FBI Director Luskin. Involved with this, Ron Adams also keeps calling me a doctor because they have criminally foreign influenced, they have predicate acts methods with the judges and prosecutors that find themselves caught because they've been hiding this from Judge Napolitano too, for example, and hiding their motivations actual and why they keep why they when they pretend they don't understand people. The only thing that makes sense is the one thing they have common is their use of locations and those locations. They have sequence shifts, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, pretended, and influencing people to pretend them relative to why and how. I know people at Mobile gas station on the Saustine Highway. And people I don't know they pretended with too, tied to that. And with the other Mobile gas station at Town Line Drive, Saustine Highway. Same names involved with the Wethersfield police, with wire crimes. Further with the kids and leaders of the kids and use of their kids so everyone stays fake. So there's a problem. We need to get them on paper to one name and sequence. Every year, they keep adding more names that have collusions with the same house involved with this, and ones tied to them. And the ones tied to them are ones with the Wethersfield police, so that doesn't count, in other words. And it's nothing personal. They brought this up, not me. I'm not bringing up my neighbors' names. They want to go back and forth with legal cases when it's too late because the same reasons they're recorded. The evidence here is that how the courts have collusion with them and with all sides in criminal and civil cases. You should fear God, Ron Adams, to play games here. You should go on the Wethersfield Police Department and tell them, you know, to repent, get on paper, pick one name and sequence fast, because there are more guns and poison things involved, and they're wrong, and they're threats. So I'm gonna deal with violence peacefully with paper. They're gonna pick one name and sequence. What kind of? So I eat healthy too, Ron. I'm spreading lies about me. People with the mental health place at Hartford Hospital and New Britain has roles with it, with the intelligence community too. And foreign and domestic military, including Saudis, they didn't want roles with the psychiatry divisions. Military police, they have on-off Trinity College. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They influenced the sense and sensibilities, and told misinformation about me to the Johnny Duke, the dinosaur of boxing. And there's a fire department next to there, involved with the Oliveri family and with the Aiello family. And my neighbors who say that, and people associated with the Olsons, I don't know the Olsons. They try to pretend other on Facebook too when I try to make it look like that, just for being like, in other words, they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, are involved with a Mr. Neville and people with the intelligence community with Cromwell locations. And they're all roles all along Route 3 with various natures of federal evidence as crimes. These are people that are in backgrounds pertaining to be against crimes. So Ron Adams, why do you obstruct justice down here? Why would you make it hard for someone to get a name relative to the confessions of a proven child abuser leader and recorded worse that he and others were involved with then and now? Also, his captors have roles with this. So Ron Adams, who's this Officer Powell you brought into it? Your roles with former Director of the FBI Robert Lusk and former standing chairperson on Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. You wouldn't just write the name Lusk. You're saying, in other words, and the difference between if I know who was really wrote the Ray Cololo comment or not, it's connected to the wire crime methods and acts with the Wethersfield police phones and their roles with their communications with the police since they were kids, with adults, faking things in databases, criminally foreign influence conversations with their teachers at the schools they went. What are you doing? Do you know the so they have Johnson and Wales has something to do with the intelligence community, criminally foreign influence. So Rhode Island people, their ties to Rhode Island and uses of my name too. With the uses of locations where they have, this is how they have, no matter where people go, they keep everyone fake, hiding what really was recorded in the past. There's this overt identity theft, fraud, slander method. It's a federal crime. These are federal crimes that Wethersfield Intercities are these remotely shown needs to hide and motivations for them. So it has something to do with their roles with Elm Streets and Wethersfield and Rocky Hill with the state judicial branch offices. There's also a guy with a red pickup truck involved with that and with playing sports with the kids in the field across the street from my house, who is involved with foreign and domestic medical families and overt criminal enterprises and private ones and people that work with the databases at the schools, criminally foreign influence, each of the sciences, tactically delusions raw. So it's a serious thing. Where and how you guys blamed our founders for slavery. You leave out how they had found how they had to counter story the other founders. So what Ron Adams, please don't make any jokes and stay on the subject, which is that when how Connecticut Interbranch has been switching names with various natures of child abusers and elderly homes roles that are sick, also with the courts and prosecutors and foreign and domestic military. It has something to do with their roles with shopping centers and malls and uses of corners of streets. Also, timed roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. They have roles with a recent home break in. Also, with the things you were saying that were family oriented. Do you know anyone that lives around me? There's a Joshua Julian also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he's involved. One of the ones involved with the intelligence community, with houses near me involved with various natures of federal crimes, and with child offenders, and with the principal child abuser before he got caught. He was one of the ones that forced him not to get caught. They have Facebook involved. The FBI has criminally foreign influence uses of Facebook. Yes, what, Ron? Ron Adams. Do you know any of the judges or police? Joshua Straker, I never had a word of conversation in my life. He's one of the ones with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, involved with the Dean Alford and the Dean Judd, with various natures of courts, family members, and the intimate ties who were affected to ask me for help before I saw him on Trinity College, before I went there. I was already getting them with Central Connecticut State University in the names of the World Trade Center. I was in the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center towers right before the attack. And proven after the attack, they had post-dated legal papers from inside the Ninth Circuit. And these are people with Hartford courts and Connecticut District Court and the Britain Superior Court that have been planting evidences with names in West Hartford. Criminally foreign influence roles with training of people intercities tied to Connecticut State University, Trinity College. Their roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, Afghans, people from Italy, people from Germany. There are German military police also involved on off Central Connecticut State University with some the other nations themed, the cultural theme fakes. Also, it has something to do. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed role uses of corners of the streets on and names on Church Street involved with federal evidences crimes, federal rules of evidences crimes, and identity theft, frauds, and slanders instances relative. Yeah, Ed Powell of Wethersfield, you brought that name up again, involved with your games here. Ron Adams showed the images, the Ron Adams is trying to attach me to a Joshua Straker who was also recorded and confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by people involved with the intelligence community associated with the corners of Griswold Street and Fairlane. I've never seen him there. But that's one of the things they have people that have been spreading roles with wire crime acts and methods, fabricating and replacing what's actually recorded. And then where they have criminally foreign influence remote uses of investigations, investigators, and of their motives for federal crimes, like the uses of and Ed Powell of the Wethersfield Police that Ron Adams brings up. And he brought the name Joshua Straker. So Joshua Stryker is involved with sequence shifts and identity thefts and frauds for criminally foreign influence uses of investigators, people associated with Afghanistan leaders and kids, and child offenders, including sexual, per his roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders with the investigators of it. They have roles with fire departments and wire crimes and fire departments, and relative to their roles with criminally foreign influence readings of statutes about what's the relativity of what's written on social media. That shows this is additional to those wire crimes. That's part of the wire crimes you have. And worse, Ron Adams. So they sent out Epstein because they have little kids involved with the intelligence community, like a Gold family. There's a Debbie Gold who pretended to know me when I was a kid by doing a little trick, by yelling at me before, and fake motivations for it too. Because they had time roles and then again with the various natures of federal criminals before they got caught, and at the principal child abuser's campus. And I still haven't been responded to per his confessions. And part of my research for education is between the campuses and the differences of them. They've been using them criminally foreign influenced. They've been using them tactically delusions wrought simultaneously. They've been using the value of that denied. And therefore, what nature demonstrates are their actual answers to things that are denied. I have nothing to do with Joshua Stryker. Dean Alford confessed, demonstrated, recorded, confirmed the day after that he was involved with unclear and untrue statements that Dean Alford made to me, which was recorded involved with criminally foreign influence uses of families of courts, of the Hartford courts and the Britain Superior Court intercities through time. And then in that context. And it has something to do with their role with the fire department and the military also switching names. Jonathan who? John, I don't know Jonathan Moore. So a whole bunch of people tied to the name Cololo with the intelligence community next to the spot, and with the name O'Brien is also with name and spots next to the community, the state capitol with the intelligence community, and their roles with names all along Route 3, all along the Broad Turnpike, and the locations used criminally foreign influence. So if anyone knows, please, Alexandra Spada or Antonetta Spada, you have a sister and a brother, and your name brought up by repeated by Ray Cololo and others who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have roles with courts when I was a kid, now again still, where they've been sticking fake things into databases. Sequence shifts roles, wire crime acts and methods, child abuses roles, elderly abuses, per themselves too. They're also lying about everyone's motivations when we bring up the names after they brought it up first, fake, because they're leaving out the foreign involvements. These are criminally foreign influence, criminal foreign influences are involved with the black and white uses. They have black KKK themed and Confederate flag themed identity theft, fraud, slander, switching names with the judges, prosecutors, and judges and their family members, sick fakes. Rick Cianfaglione made fake exceptions of knowing me after he graduated. I never had anything to do with them. I noted the exceptions. They used them criminally foreign influence. I never had them in classes when I was in grammar school. These are people involved with the Mayor Gold's family. These are people involved with through administrations with Washington, D.C. and the World Trade Center. These are people involved with the Keene family. They confessed, demonstrated, recorded, confirmed. They coached them to repeat fake things and then lock them in databases. The investigations of the World Trade Center Their roles with WFSB, Fox News, Fox Connecticut News, and WTNH fabricating emails, fake conversation with me, WFSB, whole fake conversation with me, and attached me to fake conversations with other people. And as a kid, a whole bunch of people on off Trinity College told lies about me by people from Wethersfield and Central Connecticut State University too. So Joshua Stryker is one of the people that Ron Adams demonstrated that were all. He's one of the ones that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by people in my area and is associated with it, having been involved with the Joshua Julian, who is one of the ones on the Facebook page of the principal child abusers campus, rolls with some KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, and interbranch themed black-white fakes. And why they're undercover police or what? Because they're implying that they should get on branch with they should get on paper with the interbranch, and these people on here playing games with you guys, discrediting good information with that the intelligence community is doing. They have the January 6th treatments used to cover up their motivations. They have been predicate acts with facts natures since they were kids. They have been tactically delusions raw. They leave out the phrase criminal foreign influences with their treatments of the insurrection. How dare they? They didn't even explain American history correctly. You guys didn't even know how and why the witch trials place is there. So they have families on the corners of Church Street involved with wire crime acts and methods in the past and now actively with the Wethersfield police and with the people on posting on comments on my Facebook page. And further involved with social media, involved with criminally foreign influence uses of location/S. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. It's also their roles next to elections locations. These are people that don't really care about Trump, don't really care about Biden, don't really care about Obama, Biden, Trump, etc. They use these are the sources of the Clinton campaign, criminally foreign influence. Rolls with, for example, a 1989 Reader's Digest article is associated with names involved with predicate acts leading up to the World Trade Center attack context with the court next to it in it and since as names that stick fake sequences and fake audio and video transcripts into interbranch databases. And then they're showing these to hide that and keep it blamed on other things. These are names involved with Wethersfield increasingly with the names next to the campuses. There's a Soviet Bajarial too. Only had one word of response to him. One time, their proofs they filmed that because the people on the sides of the school. They film a fake exceptions of people knowing each other. They have a Anthony Yagman and his brothers and his family involved with various neighborhood drug and medicines crimes with foreign and domestic medical families and interbranch people and people on off the state corrections offices and on off the state judicial branch offices where the locations are used criminally foreign influence. So the witness protection program also has roles with all sides of that. Involved also with the Joshua Stryker intercities with the identity theft, fraud, slanders, criminally foreign influence uses, investigations, investigators. UPS recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles of predicate acts with them and with their, with uses of their surveillance and their recollection of things and the relativity of things. I warned them that's why I went there to check it because their employees confessed this before I went there. Same thing with the mobile gas station years ago. It's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, recorded, confirmed, involved in the intelligence community, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Don't forget that, black pupils. What time is so they have rules with. There was also people with the mobile gas stations that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed their roles with other natures of organized crime associated with the digital police and their roles with their families with that and with the sale of the mobile gas station. And there's a guy, they said his name was Wally. I don't know him. Never had a conversation with him. Maybe one time I went, hello. In other words, they try to, that's recorded too. If they try to pretend that was recorded, that's what's recorded. Tony Tomorrow also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with Joe DeMaro's confessions and demonstrations. There are roles with prosecutors and judges with the corner of Town Line Drive and South Steen Highway. And there are roles with Newington locations with a whole bunch of locations and names roles with the spots next to the Connecticut State Capitol. Use sick fakes. Also, Sandy Hook has roles with this O'Brien family, with the wire crime acts and methods, with the Colellos and the Wethersfield police, with other police forms, and Whiting forensics names through time with the same house. Retired police chiefs with the same house. Involve sequence shifts, wire crime acts and methods, timed juxtaposing other natures of organized crime, drugs and medicines crimes, pretending others simultaneously too. No, because the communications we're going to deal with. Donate $15, TNT wall following a message. So Ron Adams is recorded use/s. I mean, he's recorded uses, plural, of a breaching method use of him as one of the many people involved. That when then rather than allow people to report actually recorded acts and reality, and how they're changing what's actually recorded. So they're hiding behind how they have roles with Afghanistan, with Trinity College, with the names that are involved with these games here online, with these names I don't know, and the ones like the Ray Cololo, and the difference of whether it was really Ray Cololo that recorded that or not. Because he's already one of the ones with the Wethersfield Police Department's Facebook page, already involved with the Joshua Schumack and with the Mazzucato families, with the police chief Centron and other ones retired, with child offenders and various natures of organized crime by gang theft, fraud, slander, fake ties to me, fake exception one time years ago relative as roles with the people that have Whiting forensics involved with planting evidences with them. They should fear God. Get my name out of their mind and soul. So, also Rocky Hill Police, people, Tim O'Brien. These are people with Hartford Police families, too. And their roles with the promotions when they were a little kid. As a stranger made a fake exception and make those confessions tied to that. And demonstrations. Half there, half on the campus. Times where I'm never going to see them, but just that one time, in other words, makes a fake communication if you try to describe it. This is where they keep the three branches of government, criminally foreign influence. They have roles with Glastonbury location. They have roles with I forgot the name of it. The little rap guy. Oh, someone else is here. This Ron Adams is involved with police. I caught with child offenders before, and they were forcing it before it was proven off campus anyway. I caught more then and now. They hid it by fabricating emails. They stole a whole bunch of love letters I wrote to a girl on Trinity College associated with a whole bunch of confessions of Joshua Stryker is involved with abuses of girls, where they bring up with timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, various natures of federal criminals, co-defendants, some of them as co-defendants of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, timed roles with pension thieves and stuff before they were caught in the past. Fake sequence shifts roles. They do little tricks that you have no conversation. All of a sudden, they'll take a picture of you the next day walking by, and then they pretend they know you. So it's also people on off the state judicial branch offices recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with criminally foreign influence uses of Joshua Stryker and people associated with him with identity theft, fraud, and slanders against me. Everyone forcing each other to speak through others. That's why we need to get them from the interbranch names forging and switching. Hartford courts and the Britain courts and their families and Connecticut District Court had roles with investigators and their families planting evidences on Central Connecticut State University. whole bunch of people tied to a Matt Olson and Eric Olson and family members of theirs that I don't know that were influenced to pretend other by the intelligence community, and their roles with the names on my street involved with the Weathersfield police, also with abuses of kids on my street in the years ago, and then where they are now, and uses of that, where everyone speaks things that others tell them, and as long as the police are saying it too, they don't care. Or the courts. The courts also have roles with the Trantolo and people that work with them with criminally foreign influence uses of words like government and like theory. And they have roles with wire crime acts and methods, with the news locations and with their phones and with their own phones, and with the judges involved and prosecutors. Ryan, why don't you get the officer Ed Powell? You know him personally, the one you brought up, involved. How do you know Joshua Stryker? He didn't pretend to know me. He didn't try to make that fake exception. And when I referred to that on Facebook, it's because I was following them, reacting to what I was saying with people that had nothing to do with that, were involved with all sides of criminal and civil cases in the past, criminally foreign influence, timed roles with relative criminal enterprises. The Witness Protection Program also has recorded ties to uses of corners on Griswold Street, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the names involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me. Includes I had nothing to do with these people, Weathersfield. Has something to do with the Rosewood Park. A whole bunch of people tied to him, former Mayor Gold and his family, with Whiting Forensics too, through time and then again with various natures of federal criminals they had crimes with before they were caught, and whether it was true or not. Sandy Hook also has roles with the O'Brien family, involved with the wire crimes with the Weathersfield police here involved. See how they start trouble between people, force people to use names, how they left their names out with the foreign so long. Vaccine. BlackRock, there's nothing where you guys don't care about BlackRock. You guys don't care about your whatever you work for. Kerr family says it has something to do with a whole bunch of guns on their roles with a whole bunch of guns on Morgan Circle, and their roles of wire crimes, acts and methods. But it's also with judges who speak fake things in the records with them, who have whole wire crime methods with them, falsified police reports, all sides in criminal and civil cases, timed roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. People pretend they have the right to lie where they use it where they don't have the right to lie. Why do you guys keep bringing up Joshua Stryker? Joshua Stryker, Adina Alford, confessed, demonstrated, recorded, confirmed with a bunch of girls, intercampuses, that there are some skinheads and KKK themed and black themed people on off the state judicial branch offices in conjunctions to that criminally foreign influence, sticking fake things in databases, speaking lies tied to it. They abused girls in classes I had and people I knew, in other words. But I knew of them only because of that. In other words, I had nothing to do with that. Try to make fake exceptions with these people too. And part of their sequence shifts too, with uses of it out of their locations where they've been using time treatments simultaneously too fast, too slow to get over on Forever Nature, which actually recorded here. So why are you guys bringing up who's just Joshua Stryker? Why are you guys playing games on with names on off the state prison offices? Who's the ones with the red pickup truck with it had it parked and with pictures on Facebook of kids? Also, there's pictures of kids associated with the kids of a Leahy family. His kids and their have roles with upskirt natures, leaders of the kids, And with the interbranch, there are some prosecutors and judges personally and professionally criminally involved with the Leahy family that pretended conversations with me, and with the FBI involved with this Joshua Stryker, and uses of Trinity College, with the courts involved with their family members too, with the names next to the locations. Eric Oliveri also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with the locations next to Trinity College, and with sexual groups, and the difference between that, as their roles with the KKK themed and skinhead themed and black themed and sexual groups themed roles with child abusers, and timed roles with the principal's child abusers campus, and names involved with that. Also KKK themed and Confederate flag themed. Also has roles forcing playing games where people lie about their neighbors through their neighbors. O'Brien's did that years ago with the Kalal and their teachers. I don't know what they put, but it has something to do with their war crime action methods, also with the police. So Eric Oliveri, and there's a Craig Oliveri, I never had a conversation with him either. But these are people near the state corrections, the state judicial branch offices. There's an Elm Street in Old Weathersfield, and there's a corner on there's a house at the corner of Elm Street and that Route 3. People involved with federal evidences, crimes with child offenders, and with judges and prosecutors forging and switching names roles with the identities of the courts, falsified police reports, switching the names of the officers while sticking fake things in. As people rose leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and sense. Also, because this is the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center towers right before the attack. Also, they made confessions tied to their and demonstrations of their uses of the Keene family, where they lied to them before the attack and locked them into self-valued roles with that and uses of it since too. Make sure y'all get a response on paper for them too. Roles with the Saudis too. They forced the collusions with the Keenes and the Whiting forensics, which has an O'Neill, people with the name O'Neill with West Hartford campuses and their kids involved further as one of the intelligence community kids, families with their kids involved with child offenders and themselves with tactical delusions relative, and foreign and domestic military medical families involved, like also at that corner of Sawston Highway and Town Line Drive, all kinds of natures of identity theft, fraud, slander, fake motives planning tied to that too. And people get mad. So I don't know. It's the West Hartford campus is also the principal child abusers campus. The principal being BEAN. And then it has something to do, Chris Walters and others recorded confessed. People keep bringing up the name Spada and their roles with people at Knott Street and Walker Hill in the past who had a being brought up. I had no conversation. They take a fake picture. I had no communications with that person. They probably put fake audio and video. Has something to do with confessions she made regarding a Jennifer Socia and a Jim Socia. And then right before I saw them, and I was like, after they graduated, I don't know that I never hung around with them. And why and how I didn't or didn't, they'll lie about both those reasons too. Because they're involved with sequence shift. They have to hide what's actually simultaneously recorded here. So you guys shouldn't play when people ask to report child abusers and when there's forging names and switching names roles and fake motivations. The news also has predicate acts roles. They have wire crime acts methods with their phones too, and fake motivations because they are a fake identity. It's not a real identity in the industry, but people speak for them now. It's all right. Get on paper. Get one of the fakes that want to think it's an industry onto paper. WFSB attached me to fake conversations. It is also an intelligence community that works with them through time and their roles with other locations through time they've been using to cover up things because they've been used remotely. Criminally foreign influence, fact, nature, quality aspects of nature, federal evidence of crimes, federal evidence, rules of evidence of crime, whole methods of that. So New York is also recorded involved with a whole bunch of people from Connecticut who have been involved in intercities planting evidences as roles with medical corruption and standing positions with campuses and tied database relationships. And the difference between that and overt criminal enterprises and private ones originally and still. It's not complicated, it's just extensive. And where it is complicated, it's not, not the way they say it. You're a formal steward. So, they say intercities, they have all along rivers, all along shoreline communities, involved with people with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, in the Coast Guard, in the military, in the Navy, the Air Force. They have people next to a Paul Kelly's house and the corner of his driveway involved with a skunk smell repeated multiple days in a row as people involved with predicate acts on off Trinity College when they were little who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Paul Kelly and his family and neighbors were involved with them with federal rules of evidence crimes, identity theft, frauds, slander, sequence shifts, tying to me to fake ties to campuses, kids on campus I never had anything to do with. You had classes with them, make a fake exception. Some of them not at all, and they pretend they're both ways too. The difference for that also used. See, reason uses difference, hyper additional, greater ways and more finite ways than anyone could make up, so we could discern people lying. So WFSB also committed World Trade Center themed predicate acts when they were attaching me to fake conversations with themselves. They're doing it with and as their roles, demonstrating, recorded, and confessed with names on off Central Connecticut State University and Central Connecticut State University and the Britain, Connecticut. With them in Rocky Hill and other intercities, they have roles planting federal crimes, federal evidences crimes, federal, predicate acts roles with allusions into databases, roles with falsified police reports, roles with the difference with that and uses of exceptions, differentially worse, that or the other, because of also the involvements of criminal foreign influences, remote uses of them and their uses of locations. Has something to do with their uses of the locations at the borders too, at the town lines. So it was both. 9/11 was both. There were 9/11 predicate acts. WFSB faked conversations about with me and others about that. They've been planting evidences since to hide it with the investigators of it. Hartford Hospital has roles with the military and translators of the languages, translators into Arabic with probate court judges' families. There's a Dr. Shub of modern languages, a doctor of modern languages. He's also involved with judges and prosecutors with Connecticut probate courts and their family members. Also involved all along routes and roads and routes, like Elm Street and Rocky Hill, right? Like roads in Weathersfield, conjunctive to Route 175 in conjunctions to that. Same thing with Route 3, involved with, identity theft, fraud, slander. That's what the black people's rights of eyes. One of the things our founders left us to communicate. Now, a whole bunch of people tied to Mike Roberts also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, fake, planting evidences with the intelligence community and with the names involved further with child offenders, interstates and in foreign. Same time, on my street rolls wire crimes with them, various natures of federal crime, abuse, and identity theft, fraud, slander. They're bringing it up too. So these people are changing what I say and making things up. They said with a Joshua Stryker. You guys know a Joshua Stryker? There's a Dina Alford who's also involved with untimely deaths people involved with untimely deaths, drugs, with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin, as the names involved also with neighbors that used to live next to me who timed had roles with federal evidence is crime, federal rules of evidence is crime, nature of identity theft, fraud, sequence shifts with the motivations narrative. I'm off Trinity College, who had timed roles on my street, Central Connect, on Carriage Hill and Weathersfield. They've been doing this through time, intercities, because that's how they cover things up. Because their roles with criminally foreign influence uses of locations, and they hide that already haven't been. So, Ron Wall, make sure you get the names of the judges involved with these games. Further, with prove they forced the principal child abuser, proven now anyway. But there were more roles they have with this. So tell them not to be cowards too, because there's some black themed and KKK themed that have been using the women of the courts roles with child offender sexual too. And that's important. They said also Joshua Stryker has roles with people with the name Olson out of Trinity College with the FBI director and state police families interstates and people with shoreline communities and boating involved with named Cololo too, involved with the wire crimes of the Weatherfield police playing these games. They already painted themselves in corners, attaching me to fake ties to people from every class campus I went to have ties between the people involved with federal evidence crimes. I mean, they'll tell you themselves. It's not real. You guys putting fake things in databases. Who's Henry Olson? You guys brought up Josh Stryker. Now you're saying he's tied to Henry Olson. Who's Henry Olson? So it's nothing against Trinity College, too. There's a police chief that used the name Darth Vader, also involved with the FBI. Also other agencies and their family members. It's weird like this because I caught them when I was and I recorded them various ways when I was in high school, involved with what I know how to describe now as predicate acts and that predicate acts methods, like wire crime acts, like and methods of by them, and increasingly various natures of them too, and the difference between that used associated with a whole bunch of people with the name O'Brien with the intelligence community, increasingly tied to ones with the name a former Mayor Gold, increasingly roles with forensics locations, people with Koreans, people with Afghanistan, people with Russians involved with wire crimes, with drugs and medicines crimes with their family members, timed, identity theft frauds, people with Germany, people, involved next to the campuses too, identity theft frauds, not by accident, fake things in databases. So you guys are going to owe me money too. But before we get to that, we need to get the paper. We need to get things on paper because there are some gangs involved with threats with the people that work with the campuses. And everyone's too scared because of the roles with the police forms. A whole bunch of people with the name Dylan, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved like a Thomas Dillon, Anna Dillon, and her difference between the Annie Dillon, and Kevin Dillon and people associated with that. There's also a Pat Vincent. I never had a conversation with my life. He had roles with a whole bunch of conversations with people who use my name, who have roles of wire crime acts and methods, make fake exceptions and know me to hide what came first, and their roles with federal evidences, crimes, and child databases, and private ones at the same time as collusions with overt criminal enterprises, various natures of federal criminals before they get caught. I know. Why is he pretending to send money? Why? why would you bring up the name Joshua Stryker to obfuscate the acts associated with him and the sequence shifts, for example, associated with? These are also names involved with proven post-dated documents from inside the Ninth Circuit Court. If you want to debate, that's recorded anyway. Sequence shifts roles with a Scalora families too. Wethersfield police also recorded confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they've been influenced by the police chief and others associated with them to make things up with those names, confess things towards them, and then run away. Like it doesn't. That's how they play games. You need to hide lie progressions. So Ron Adams, so Ron Adams. So there's a principal being. He was forced, not told on, and he was involved and is involved with increasing effects in the kids with his games and fabricating things into databases also with foreign and domestic medical. It was through time increasingly various natures of federal criminals and interbranch families that had timed roles with the same campus and names next to it. There are a whole bunch of people with the fire departments that pretended fake conversations with me, also with their doctors. Like the name Pierce made fake exception too on the sides of the where they lived next to was also used criminally for an influence. So anyway, they have Connecticut boxing gyms, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the Mike Pandolf, planting evidences with them with the intelligence community as their roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases in the past and through time and uses of that. They have roles with the intelligence community and their kids with that too, involved with that. Fake motivations, confessions tied to their roles with Saudis. They forced collusions with predicate acts with them. So Anthony Wall, by the way, people, Anthony Wall, boxing song by Anthony Wall. Brand new. It's Apple, Spotify. Thank you too, people. Good night. You guys showed a lot of evidence. Make sure I get this Ed Powell. You don't play games. Make sure you get me a name for the guys, the Wethersfield police switching names. So it's nothing personal against the police too. We need police. Every country needs the three branches of government, but we have them fake, so we're going to have to fix that. CT will break. See wall, build wall. See Romulus. Thank you. Thank you. Make sure they get on paper to one name and sequence. New Britain Sheriff Superior Court should fear God. What I caught them using wire crime, mail crime, falsified police reports in their Facebook page for, with child offenders, even sexual, medical, judicial at the same time with names at elderly homes too, and uses of the courts associated with that. You guys should fear God now. Fear. Yeah. Would they have VA near that spot too?